Okay, so by going over your molecules of ionic molecular bonding and ionic bonding, we have set the tone for what we talk about with acids and bases. Uh, Now, with acids and bases, an acid is a compound with one or more hydrogen atoms that produces an H plus. So this is a hydrogen cation. So in this case, we're talking about an H plus, a hydrogen cation that will have the acids. Bases are a little bit different. They use a hydroxide anion. So that's how they balance each other out. So name of the anion will now change. It's no longer ide. If it is an acid, it will be hydro something ic. So for instance, if we have this one, which is HCl. We have a hydrogen in front, we have a Cl, so we know it has to be ic to end, and hydro is the hydrogen that we have, so hydrochloric acid. I'm sure you've heard of hydrochloric acid, even if it's in like a horror movie or something, talking about how it can burn the skin of somebody that's around. Now, if it ends in ite, that is where we see something that is us. So if it ends in ite, it is us. If it ends in 8, it is ic. So this is with polyatomic ions. So with polyatomic ions, we do not say the hydro. Hydro is only when an hydrogen cation goes with a monoatomic anion. If it goes with a polyatomic anion, then it drops the hydro and either becomes us or becomes ic. So that's where we see the difference. So for instance, sulfite is going to be SO3, so that makes it sulfurous acid. Now, nitrate is going to be NO3, so in this case, we have nitric acid. So instead of hydronitric acid, it's going to be nitric because we have that O added to the end, which creates what we're doing. Now, with bases, like I said, we have a hydroxide. So think about this. What is H plus OH? That's going to equal H2O. So that's why when we see that a powerful base can be neutralized with a powerful acid, that creates our water. So writing the names of the formulas of bases, so you always have a hydroxide on there. It'll be your anion, and the cation will be some sort of metal. So it'll be some sort of metal added onto there. So sodium hydroxide will be a type of base. So you'll have NaOH. The OH by itself is a polyatomic ion, which creates that hydroxide at the end. So aluminum hydroxide is going to be there as well. So it doesn't really change the naming portion of what we talked about with polyatomic ions. We just now know that when it's a hydroxide, it's going to be a base. Because when we combine them together to try to dilute them, which is what it's called when you neutralize an acid or a base, you will be creating some sort of salt, which is what happens when we combine the anion and cation from a acid and a base and water. So the laws for governing forces, so the law of definite and multiple proportions. Definite proportions says that any compound sample, the masses of the elements will always stay in the same proportion. So if we have 100 grams of MgS, there are 43 grams of magnesium and 56.87 grams of sulfur. That means if it was doubled, their masses would be doubled. So it will always stay the same regardless because of the law of definite proportions. Now the law of multiple proportions states that different amounts of one element combine with the same amounts of another element. So we can have something like NO and NO2, or H2O2 and H2O, or CO2 and CO, things like that. So calcium and chlorine and calcium bromide would be two totally different things. They are not an example. So when we're looking at this, that means that it is possible for multiple proportions to have with different element combinations. Now remember, Very important to remember, ide is for binary compounds. Ite and ate is polyatomic. Prefixes are only for molecular. Roman numerals are for our transition metals, and the subscripts tell us how many atoms of each element is there. Remember, if we go back to our acids, when it is ide, so when it is a singular monoatomic anion, this will make it a hydroic acid. And if it is a polyatomic, it'll either be us based on its current ending, or ic based on its current ending. So ic is when it is ate, and us is ite. And that is the review for today. That'll go with your worksheet. And good luck. That's it.